Welcome back to Albus Explains. I'm Albus, and today we will begin the next part of our preamble series on the word democratic. Now, the words socialist and secular come before democratic, but in the original constitution, these words were not there. They were added later in the year 1976 on the 42nd constitutional amendment. So, they were added later. So, we will deal with them eventually, but today our word is democracy. Now, for the European experience, the world falsely knows that democracy was the first country in the world to have democracy was Greece. But that is false. Like I said, it may be true for the European experience, but that is false. For in India, the Licchavis Empire, in which borders Nepal and northern Uttar Pradesh, for that region the leaders of that region were elected. In fact, Shuddhodhan, the father of Gautam Buddha, was an elected leader of that place, and he wanted his son to also be elected as the king of that place. So that was contemporary with the Greek democracy. But if we go even further back in the Indus Valley civilization, in the Vedic phase, there were sabhas and samitis, and in samitis there was sammiti. Miti means head or opinion, and sam means common. So it means that the common opinion of the people was considered. So the sitting of the elders decided things on the opinion of the maximum number of people, and that is basically the definition of democracy. Another definition of democracy comes by the great leader Abraham Lincoln, who said democracy is by the people, for the people, and of the people. But that is not very illuminating. I have a cool thing to discuss on democracy. Plato wrote that he heard things in his head, just like his teacher Socrates, and they heard things in their heads whenever they were about to do something. Well, let's say they were about to do something wrong, they would hear a little voice in the back of their head telling them that what they were doing was wrong, and if they listened to that word, it would be good, and if they didn't listen to that word, they would feel that whatever they did, they had a chance to not do that. So this little voice that they heard in the back of their head, Socrates and Plato called it daemon. Okay, and now this daemon has the same root for the word demos, that means people. So the word for the word that says that the opinion of good, the good opinion of any brain, if collected, that becomes, and if ruling is done by that collective, that is known as democracy. So that is how the democracy functions. But democracy has another feature to it, which means that it needs to have that election, that constant election, regularly, freely, and fairly. For example, the Communist Party of China says that they have internal elections, but they are neither free, they are neither fair, and they are definitely not regular. For example, if we put in the constitution that we shall have elections every 50 years, so then that is not democracy, because 50 years is too long a time. Why not just remove democracy from the preamble itself? Why do you even have the play of having a democracy in your constitution? So the constitution need to be regular. They can be extended up to 6 years, like in the case of Russia, I believe, or 4 years, like in the case of America, or 5 years, like it is in the case of India. So every 5 years elections happen in the country, and that is the route that constant public opinion is taken on how to rule the country. And this is the crux of democracy, that whatever the government is responsible, and not just responsible, answerable to the people. And this answerability pushes the government to strive for more good. So the daemon argument that I put forward earlier, that applied to the government itself when it is constantly checked by the people themselves. So the concept of democracy is quite deep, and it is the best thing that we have come up with. Like Winston Churchill famously once said, democracy is the worst possible way to govern a country except all others, which means all the others are worse than that. So that is how democracy comes into play here. So thank you.